There are a couple other ways to add texture to a model, and that is with bump maps and displacement maps. I'm going to create a series of tori here. Command D, duplicate these, 1, 2, and 3 to show you the difference between adding texture, which we've done in the past. Let me go ahead and add a standard surface shader to each of these. I'm just using Arnold's surface shader here. And under my standard surface node here, under base, right? Here's all my material. The color channel, this is what we've done in the last video. I'm gonna add some noise. Make sure 6 is selected on my keyboard so I can see textures. And this is how we've added texture. We've applied it to the color channel. And so it looks kind of like marble, but the surface appears smooth. So the texture itself is applied to the color. If I want to apply it to the geometry, if I apply that same texture, let's say, and I'm going to scroll down here in my material node to the geometry tab. And there's this channel here, bump mapping. If I apply that same noise texture, I get a different result. And it looks as though there's a kind of bumpy texture, a noisy texture that's been applied to the surface as if it's part of the geometry. But it's not, it's an illusion. The geometry is still the same. It just, working with the lights, looks as if it has bump to it. But you can see around the edges here that there's not really any change that's being applied to the geometry itself, right? So it's kind of an illusion. It's kind of laid on the surface, and that's bump maps. The last kind is a displacement map. And if I'm in, we can kind of jump up and down our nodes here, our node structure. So when I select my torus here, I have my torus node, my shape node, and my standard surface material node. I want to actually jump up here to the shader node, okay? And that's by pressing this little button. This jumps up and down the nodal network. So here I am at the top of the shader node, and then we have this displacement material node. And if I click this little checker box and add noise, we don't see anything happen in the scene, but let's go to our Arnold renderer. And we might need a light. Let's put a light in the scene. Okay, and let's rotate this light. And now you can see, now we have a lot of strange deformation happening to this torus. So we're going to want to go ahead and let me embed this next to our view here so we can, let me scroll over. Okay, so you see how now the geometry looks like it's been deformed, and it's kind of in a funky manner with these straight lines. So let's go back to this last torus here. Go to our standard surface node, jump up one to displacement material, noise 3, and jump over. Now if I change things like maybe change some of these values here, in particular, there's one, which is place 3D texture. And let's see if we can change the UVs. Let's do 30 by 60, and it's still giving me this strange square. Let's try 10 by 10. We are looking for a place to change the size. Let's see, the density perhaps. There we are. And then once I bump down that density, so working with density, let's do it at 0.01, density 0.01, and then let's go back to place texture, and then let's just place this at 1 by 1. Okay, and now you see that we have, you'd have to kind of work together, work with those values, but you can see that now and they're not really correlating great, but the surface itself looks as if that texture has been applied. Let's go back to noise and see if we can't change some of these values again. Now here we go. We're getting better result. If I turn down the amplitude, okay. Now you can see that some of this texture looks as if it's been applied to the surface of the model. Okay, so those are 3 ways that we can apply texture to our models in a different fashion where it's actually affecting, or it appears to be affecting, the geometry. We haven't necessarily sculpted anything here, right? But it looks as if we have by just plugging in a particular texture to the channels, either the displacement channel or the button map channel.